Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about the goggles of belief. Now the goggles of belief might sound like a funny term, but I'm going to try and describe it to you and explain it to you in a simple way today. So I say goggles because actually when we believe things, it's almost like we're looking through a pair of goggles with that belief written across the lenses. And then everything we see is seen through that belief, through those goggles. Now our beliefs form from our early experiences or things that have happened to us during our life. So somebody who struggled at school, maybe had some learning problems, maybe diagnosed late in life with dyslexia, may have built up some beliefs around their abilities. So because they'd struggled in school and perhaps didn't get the support for it, might have grown up believing that they weren't very good at things, that other people are better than them. And this belief then affects you throughout your whole life. Other beliefs might form around friendships and who you are as a person in relation to other people. So often in teenage years it can be a very tricky time because there's lots of expectations around friendships. People are changing, people move from one group to another with friendships, especially with girls. And actually it's very common for girls to start to develop these beliefs about themselves associated with their relationships and their close friendships with their peers. So to help you understand this a bit better, I've got some props with me. So here we go. Oh, better read it first. Okay, so put these on. So on these ones, if I don't meet up with friends, they will reject me. Now this belief may have formed from past experiences where perhaps you haven't been able to meet up with friends, or you've been in with a group of people where if you haven't been able to do everything they expect you to do, then you've been rejected. So of course our experiences are going to have a big influence on the things that we believe. However, it doesn't mean that this is always the case, and I'll show you why in a minute. So if our beliefs are formed as such, if I don't meet up with friends they will reject me, then how is that going to influence the things that you're doing and seeing? So it's like wearing this statement across your goggles, and everything you do in your life, in your day-to-day life, you're looking through that belief. So what might you see or do? Well, you might feel like you have to please people all the time because if you don't, they'll reject you. You might feel that you constantly have to meet other people's demands because if you don't, they will reject you. You might feel that you can't be your own person, that you have to be a certain way because if you don't, people will reject you. And so it goes on, and you can see how your behaviour might change according to that belief. What also happens is you notice different things. You become hyper aware of when people might be rejecting you. So perhaps if you're brave enough to express your own opinion and it goes against somebody else's, you might look around the room and notice that people are looking in certain ways at you. And you might interpret those ways as they don't like what I said and they're going to reject me. And it might be just that those people are thinking about what you said, but because you're looking at things through this belief that people will reject you if you don't conform, then what you're going to notice is all the signs that point to that belief and confirm it. Okay, so now for the alternative belief. So the alternative belief is my friends understand that we have different rules. It feels hard, but they won't reject me. So I'm going to put that belief on. So again, everything I see, I'm going to be seeing through this belief. So if I'm wearing this belief instead, then I might be seeing the same thing, but I will interpret it differently. So when I express my opinion and I look around the room and see people giving me certain looks, what might I interpret it as? Well, I'm much more likely to interpret it as, well, maybe they're thinking about what I said, and actually, even though they might not agree, they're not going to reject me because they accept that everyone has their different opinions. And it might feel uncomfortable, but it's okay because I'm allowing it. And I'm seeing things through that belief that it is going to be okay, that it's not a problem that we have different beliefs. If I'm looking at things through this belief, my behaviour is going to change as well. So rather than trying to please everybody all of the time for fear of rejection, because I'm seeing things through the belief that actually it's okay to express an opinion and I'm still going to be accepted, even though it feels uncomfortable, I'm much more likely to say what I think and not feel like I have to follow the crowd. It's going to feel more comfortable because I'm not going to be having those thoughts that I've done something wrong all the time. if my friends aren't talking to me for a couple of hours, then I'm not going to worry about it so much. I'm not going to be worrying and thinking, gosh, I've done something to upset them. Instead, I'm much more likely to think, well, no, it's okay. We don't all have to be the same. It's not because I haven't conformed to what they're doing, and I'll wait and see what happens next. Now then, if, as in the first example I used, I've grown up struggling in school, maybe got dyslexia, didn't get the help that I needed, and I've grown up feeling that I can't do things as well as other people, then as soon as I'm faced with something difficult, I might be wearing these goggles. I can't do it. Now, if you're viewing everything through the goggles of I can't do it, then what am I going to notice? Well, I'm going to notice all the times when it's difficult to do something. I might notice all the times that I fail. I'm not going to notice all the times where I perhaps did manage to do something. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get a real mental block when I try and do something and then I have that thought I can't do it. And I don't know if you recognise this, but sometimes when we have that mental block, it makes it very difficult to move forward. And then we truly believe that we can't do it because we've reached that point, we've reached that barrier and we can't overcome it. And it stops us from moving forward. So the more we have that mental block, the more it confirms that we can't do it. So our behaviour becomes different. Our behaviour becomes stubborn. We know we can't do it, therefore why bother? So perhaps we might give up more easily. Perhaps we won't try at all. Perhaps it puts us off doing new things because we can't do it, so what's the point? And it's not very helpful. But it makes sense why this happens, because anybody's experiences that have been like that, it would be very easy for this belief to form. However, we're not stuck with it, are we? We could change that belief. And at first, it's helpful to try and change it by acting, so pretending that we believe the new thing. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so we might start off acting as if we believe the new thing. So the new belief here is it is difficult and I can do my best. So we start off by pretending that this is the case. So what's the difference then? Well, the difference between this one and the last one we had on is if we believe that it is difficult but we can do our best still, then we're not going to get that mental block that stops us from doing what we need to do. So when we're faced with a difficult task, rather than avoiding, giving up for fear of failure, because we absolutely believe that we can't do it, we start to tackle things differently. So yes, it's difficult, but if I have a go, then I can do my best. Then it's okay to do my best. And then you don't get that mental block, you don't get that barrier coming down, and it allows you to go forward and just have a go and do the best that you can. So what would you notice then, seeing things through this belief? Well, you'd notice that parts of the problem you might be able to solve. You'd notice the bits that you could do. If you were doing a homework task, you might notice the bits that started to make sense. And you'd perhaps remember times when you had been able to do things, rather than remembering times when you'd given up and you'd felt like a failure. So you can see that wearing these goggles would make you much more willing. And even if you started off having to pretend that you could do it, just by pretending and having a go, it would allow that mental block to ease enough for you to see something that you'd be able to do, which you can then hang on to, and it will allow you to move forward, because then you'd notice more and more things that perhaps made sense and feel like you've achieved something. And I can give you an example of this from the other day. So I have to say that technology drives me a little bit mad, and I'd spent the whole day on a computer. Recently I was working, and in the evening I had a Zoom workout arranged with my family. During the Zoom workout, the internet connection wasn't very good, so we had to keep stopping and changing who was sharing their screen. I was finding it incredibly difficult to use all the different tabs that were open and move from one to the other smoothly. And because I started thinking about how difficult that was and how actually I don't like technology and I didn't want to do it, and it wasn't something that I was very good at, a real mental block appeared for me. And because I had that mental block there, it really stopped me from being able to do what I needed to do. So I gave up. and I had to walk away from it because it was almost like being in paralysis. Because I had this idea in my head, I was wearing the goggles, that actually I can't do it, I just can't do this. I had to stop and walk away. So I avoided, I stopped what I was doing. I wasn't going to get any further. When I came back to it, I was wearing a new pair of goggles. My new pair of goggles was, I can do it. It's difficult, it's stressful, but I can do it. I just need to take my time. And I took my time and I slowly worked through the different bits I needed to work through. I closed down the tabs I didn't need. I opened up the ones that I did. I reconnected. I managed to sort the internet out and do what I needed to do. And I ended up achieving what I needed to, just by taking the time and putting on those different goggles that then allowed me to behave in the way that I needed to. So actually I was putting on a pretense to start with. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to do it without getting stressed again, but I thought, no, I'm going to try this. So I put those goggles on. I had a real good go. I can do it. Right, if I really believe I can do this, how is it going to go? And what I found was that I was then able to do it because I'd taken away that barrier, and the barrier being that belief that I can't do it, which then stops us like a brick wall that we then can't climb over. So you can see how powerful these goggles can be. But we are in control of those goggles. You know, we can't change our experiences. We can't change what has happened to us and the formation of those beliefs. But what we can do is take those beliefs on and off and play around with them a little bit. We know that our lifelong beliefs affect us, and we know that sometimes they're not affecting us in a really good way. So if we play at taking them off and putting something different on, so playing with an alternative belief, let's see what happens. And what we find then is that doing so can be really useful. So a final example for you. Okay, so this one is, I'm no good at anything. So if we were holding the belief, I'm no good at anything, what are we going to be seeing through this belief? We're going to be seeing all the things that we can't do. We're going to be seeing all the times where we go wrong. We're going to be noticing comments that people are making, like, oh no, that's not quite right, and interpreting that as, well, I can't do anything right. And what's our behaviour going to be like? Well, we're not going to try new things. We're going to avoid new things for fear of getting it wrong. We're going to be anticipating other people's reactions and expecting people to get cross with us for not doing things right particularly. We're going to be very down on ourselves and perhaps have lots of critical thoughts. I never get anything right, I always get it wrong, I'm hopeless, there's no point trying because I won't be able to do it, and all those kind of things. But if we put on an alternative pair of goggles for this one, so for example, I struggle with this and that's okay, there are other things that I'm good at. So if we put these on, then what we're going to notice is the things that we are doing okay at. We're going to notice times during the day where we have done all right. We're going to notice the positive comments of other people. We're not going to be hanging on to those negative comments anymore. We'll perhaps be remembering the times where we have done things right and where we have managed to do new things that have been difficult. And because we're noticing all those different things, it's going to encourage us to try more new things. So our behaviour is going to change very much. So you can see that alternative belief allows us to have a much more positive outlook on the things that we're doing. So our goggles can be interchangeable. Just because we have a belief doesn't mean that we can't do anything about it. The most important thing is to be aware of what your beliefs are. So maybe write them down, have a go now. Have a think about your experiences and the kind of beliefs that's built up in you. The things that you do that are informed by those beliefs. You know, what is it that you're doing because of what you believe? And then remember that those beliefs are like goggles and you're not stuck with them, you can take them off. And if you can take them off, you can also put a new pair on. So have a go at writing some alternative beliefs to the ones that you've identified. What kind of belief might be more helpful than the one that you've identified, the one that's keeping you stuck? And get a pair of old glasses or sunglasses and write down your new belief and stick it on them and put the goggles on and have a look through them and see what you notice. Is it different when you look through that alternative belief? Are the things that you notice different? And does it allow you to behave in different ways that perhaps might be more helpful? So I hope you can have a go at that, and I hope that what I've said today makes sense and that you've enjoyed watching this video. So until the next one, take care and goodbye.